What is up? Welcome back, everybody. This is Elijah 5000 here. Edge 2 Gaming. You'll hear some noise in the background. I do not know how bad it sounds. I don't have my headset, so bear with me. But you will hear the heater in the background. And you will also hear random shit. Random shit you'll hear. Let me adjust this camera. There we go. Today we're here. We have the... You will see me looking off to the side because that is where I will be reading the unofficial transcript. The unofficial spoilers from TCB are out. I have not read them yet, but I wanted to go ahead and get a jump on them. And tomorrow will be the official Viz Media Shonen Jump chapter. So we're gonna go to TCB, and we're gonna just read it together. So let me do this. Let me adjust the camera real quick. How you guys doing? For those who are asking, I am doing a little bit better. Not in shambles, as Law would say. Trafalgar D-Water Law. But doing a little bit better. You know, out of all of my dogs, Chewie was probably in here in the game room the most. Either laying on my mat as you come in the door, or sitting right here by Daddy as reading One Piece, doing shit like that. Vader and them come in, so Kylo comes in here the least, but True is always in here. So it's been nice to remember him. He's just such a good fucking dog, dude. You don't get him much better than that. But I do not want to stay on any sad notes. He will be missed immensely. That was my baby. I've had him since he was a puppy. First pictures, only brown tan dog in the litter. Just Daddy's baby. So trying to send out posts everywhere, Instagram, Twitter, and also if you are following on Twitch, or if you're not following on Twitch and you're on YouTube, you guys get posts of which stream we do, polls, same thing as Twitter or X, whatever you want to fucking call it. And Twitch, you guys get everything. I had an 8-hour One Piece stream the other day, One Piece Pirate Warriors, so make sure to turn on your notification and follow the channel, because it could be anything that ends up coming up streamed here. But all the stories I try to put out, at least what I'm streaming at that time, so you guys can join anytime you want to. Hang on, my hair is getting fucking hot. My fucking hoodie. Jesus. I think my hoodie on is just down there, so I left it. Let's get into this, the TCB spoilers. And let me check and make sure y'all can see this. See if we need to zoom in a little bit. Ooh. Okay. Got my fucking tea. Okay, this is as close as you motherfuckers are getting. We're here. Chapter 1167, title Ida's Son. And as we scroll through, we see old Ginzo without the pinwheel in his head sticking up, and Nojiko, and it says for reader cover requests from Rizu no Sanji. Jin-san and Nojiko are watching a cat trying to steal a book, but they don't seem angry or they don't seem mad. And it's a book on fish, and it says encyclopedia for fish. So that is what the cat is stealing. I like the way they convert it. And then it shows you like what some people's shirts are saying. The store owner that's chasing the cat, his shirt says Amin, A-M-E-E-N, the librarian. So we continue from here, past the cover story. First page, 33 years ago, 5 years after God Valley incident. So 5 years after the God Valley incident, the state of the world after the Valley incident. And then we see a guy who's wearing a shirt that says Six Tadeo. Say, we were in the open sea and we saw pirate ships. And we have Big News Morgan saying, and then, and a guy with a tattoo on his neck that says Hora Fukumi says, as he listens, he's smiling. The guy continues, a giant figure appeared behind them in the fog and annihilated them. Then we go to Impel Down. And then a prisoner saying, we heard a huge explosion and the ship was wrecked before we realized what happened. And prisoners in the back, they're laughing. One guy's got his hand in his mouth. He's scared as fuck. And he says, then we all drowned in the sea. And then someone says, wasn't he one of the sea kings? Or wasn't it one of the sea kings? And he goes, no, it was more like a person in the shadows. He continues to tell him. Then we continue to see a reporter talking to another captain. He said, did this happen in the Florian Triangle? And he says, of course not. I wouldn't go hunting in a place like that. I didn't even get close to him. No doubt it was a demon in human form. Then we see a giant figure jumping off a giant Norse ship, and it says, at that time, a rumor spread throughout the Grand Line, and there's a little ass pirate ship looking up, eyes popping out of his head, yelling, and it says, it said that a demon had appeared in the sea, thick with fog, specifically attacking pirate ship. And it says, and bam, the sword comes down and we see the figure, bright as day, King Harald of Elbaf. They say, but in reality, it was just Harald. The narrator continues, in a sea where many people had never even seen a normal giant, his appearance was the embodiment of terror itself, or terror to them. Thus, Harald was helping the Navy to fulfill his vow to atone for 1,000 years. Now, this is kind of weird because Harald caused all this trouble across the sea, world renowned, known, that Davy D. Zabek called him out on, and he's destroying pirate ships, but nobody knows of him after God Valley and all that shit. It doesn't make, maybe they hushed all these countries he went to, because remember, he was going from island to island making friends who came to Elbaf's need when there was famine, but before that, he was fucking up all these different countries. Then after Ida, he was going around and even before this, rounding up giants that were hurting humans. So the world should know about giants, or at least Harald. It's kind of fucking weird. Then we see, the narrator continues, we see a picture of Kaido, Newgate with the pirate captain hat on, and Big Mom. And it says, as for the pirates who scattered on God Valley, or scattered from God Valley Island, each of them began their journey to become cornerstones of the new era, and they reached their peak after 10 years or more. And these we know are the Yonko. While those pirates' only concern was, it is the struggle to control areas of influence. All right, so I pulled this TCB scan up, and apparently this one's been kind of changed, because the thing that we're talking about now in this panel, we see Caribou's dad and we see Shiki, and it said while the other ones were Yonko, some pirates just fought over territory. So this has to be Hachinosu before Shiki gets imprisoned and impaled down and breaks out and all that shit. And then we see Roger's ship, and it says, there is a crew that achieved the impossible, and he was the only one who traveled the entire world. It is the crew of the Pirate King, Gold Roger, the public execution of the Pirate King, who was captured shortly after. It was supposed to be a ceremony and a display of the world government's power and authority. But the table turned and the worlds entered an era of more madness and chaos in pursuit of the great treasure left by Roger, which is One Piece. And as we go through these panels, they're showing Big Mom Whitebeard, Kaido became Yonko. Not Gonzu, but Shiki was fighting with Caribou's daddy. Roger navigated the sea and charted it with his crew. And then after he found out he was sick, went ahead and turned himself in for a public execution. But that turned into the new era of piracy, in which inspired where Luffy, Ace, Sabo, and the rest of these motherfuckers set out to sea. Kuma, not really Kuma, but Dofi, all of them. We continue, we see some giants being sworn in, and it says, and because of that advent of the great pirate era that caught everyone by surprise, the Navy was forced to recruit dozens of giants from around the world to strengthen its military power. Let's see. On another front, after Harald started working for the Navy, he submitted to them. And he said, wow, huge, or how huge is he? He is one of the ancient giants. So I guess these are soldiers talking. So, I want him as my slave. Oh, Celestials are saying this. He was finally allowed to officially visit the Holy Land that year. And then he goes, Surface Sea Alliance? Yes. Now, hang on a second. We're getting ready Deep sea knot. Yeah. You know what? I am thankful that they pulled those scans up, but that shit's way off right now. As I continue to read, it's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Okay, let's see. There we go. God still. God still is the phrase that we need to look for. My bad. Some motherfuckers tricked me. Motherfuckers tricked me. We're about to find the right verbiage. These better not be the ones I was... It's the same fucking one I was just on. Alright, here we go. Let's see how that looks. It's small. Damn. Let's see if I can find something the size I want. There we go. I want to go to X. Fuck. Those are not the right fucking ones. Cause that shit was atrocious. Like, it's hard even to put together fucking sentences with the shit that they wrote in. Like, oh, this is the translation. No, the fuck it's not. And I don't know why I'm not fine. There was a couple. Maybe they took them down because I don't even see the pages no more. Okay, so we're just going to go with this one. You guys can't see it, but I'll read it for you. This makes sense. It's better than what we have been getting. Starting back over, we're going to go through this whole fucking chapter, so bear with me. Anybody that has jumped in, thank you guys for jumping in. Thanks for joining chat. Thanks for subscriptions, all that shit. Let's get to it. Page 1, after we saw the... and this is what I'll talk about, even the cover. The cover request by Ideal Sanji. And it said, Risco something Sanji. A cat is scolded for stealing a book, but Jinzo, and it just says Jin and Nojiko aren't mad. And the same thing, we see the guy running. It doesn't have a translation of his name, and it doesn't say what's on the book. But we do know it is an encyclopedia because that was originally told to us in the brief and full spoilers. 33 years ago, 5 years after God Valley, a post-God Valley world. Pirate says, or a guy says, I could have sworn pirates were approaching off the shore. Big News Morgan says, and he continues, but there was something huge and shadowy emerging from the mist behind them. Then it says the underwater prison impelled down. A prisoner goes, everything just went kaboom after that. So we're hearing the man that saw this on the coast and from the pirate that their ship got fucked up. He continues, our ship was in ruins before we knew it. We were nothing but fish food. And then the two in the back that are laughing, like, sure, it wasn't a seeking attack. And he says, no way, it was shaped like a human. Then we have another reporter talking to a captain. Don't tell me you were in the infamous waters of the Florian Triangle. Fat chance. We don't fish near that region. Everyone knows to avoid it. Anyway, that monstrous thing was definitely human-like, he says. Then we continue and we see this giant figure jumping from a giant-ass ship. It says, during this period, a rumor began to circulate. Among the Grand Line countries, they said a monster lurked deep in the foggy seas targeting pirate ships. And we see the ship, exclamation marks above it, and the captain looking up and going, whoa! As the sword and a figure comes down and we see it's King Harold chopping their fucking ship in half. The narrator says the identity of that monster was none other than Harold. Few who sailed those waters had ever seen a giant with their own eyes, so to them he was nothing less than the very embodiment of fear. Harold now worked in the shadows to back up the Navy as part of his atonement for the last 1,000 years of history. Then we see Kaido, Whitebeard, and Big Mom. While the pirates who had gone their separate ways after God Valley continue to rise in prominence, and over the next decade or so, each of them would peak to become a defining face of their generation. Most of those pirates simply clashed over territory, and this is where we see Caribou's dad and Shiki. And I keep forgetting fucking his name. Then we see the Roger pirate ship on the sea, and it says, however, one crew broke through all the others and achieved a feat long believed impossible. They circumvented the entire world. They were hailed as the crew of the king of the pirates, Gold Roger. The public execution of the captured pirate king was meant to serve as a spectacle, a display of the world government's power, however. As we see Buggy and Shanks older on the crew, and I still think that pirate that's right underneath Scopper Gabon looks like Captain John. What the fuck? We see everybody's happy on the ship. Then we see the execution block in Lugetown, and it goes, the narrator continues, the world was plunged into even greater turmoil as countless souls set out in pursuit of the vast treasure Roger left behind, the One Piece. Then we see giants swearing themselves in with the Navy. No one had anticipated the advent of the Great Pirate Era. Navy headquarters found itself caught off guard. As a result, more than 10 giants were drafted into the Marines from all over the world in an effort to consolidate strength. During this stretch of time, Harold waited on the Navy hand and foot, and we see Mary Geoise. And then we hear the conversations. Did you see how huge he was? He's an ancient giant. I want to make him my slave, from all the Celestials. And then inside a room with the Gorosei says, and that very year he was finally granted formal permission to visit the Holy Land. And he goes, Harold says, a shallow sea contract? The Gorosei, we have that Tuscany, what is he, a boar? Big ass boar? Goes, that is correct. Consider yourself the right hand of God's knights, God's steel. And then Harold goes, it's a great honor. As we see the fucking abyssal tattoo on his shoulder. Then, continuing from the 5 elders, is there are 3 levels of the contract. I think this is Mercury talking. The shallow sea contract is more minor pact. The deep sea and deep sea contracts are reserved for those who are to be bound fully to the true God. Only 13 individuals in the entire world receive that privilege. And then Harold goes, what do you mean by God? And then we see Nosojoro sitting there saying, we will only come to know the great depths of this world on the day you become a full knight of God. And then Harold leans in forward and he goes, could Elbaf become a member nation then? Only thinking about his people. It's fucking him up. And then Mercury goes, naturally, Harold. At that point, the entire world will be clamoring to welcome you. And then Harold smiled. I'm grateful for this opportunity to prove myself. And then we see Harold walking around, thousands of little ass Celestials looking behind him. It says the Knights Temple. Oh, he's at the Knights Temple. Okay, so these are knights in training. The Knights Temple, Shangara, domain of the gods. And we see Saint Figurlin Garling sitting on his ass, hands crossed with a little goatee and a mustache, looking cute. You know, he doesn't have the full beard. It's coming in. But captain of the Knights of God, Figurlin family, Saint Garling. And he goes, what is the great one planning? And then we see Saint Somers. And I love the way that Oda does the glasses. They are dark and they have just lines right here, but you can see straight through them to their eyes and what they're looking at. Somers' eyes look very lackadaisical. He goes, you're gonna obey us even though you're king of Elbaf. And then we see a close-up of Shanks. And then Harold says, of course, just say the word. And so he is going to the Knights of God, letting him know that he's in service of them. And Garland's just trying to figure out, like, what are they planning? Garland continues, we'll keep a long-distance transponder snail on hand and call if we have need of you. You will be free to travel the surface world, but you are forbidden to speak of our dealings. And Harold goes, understood. So this is why the world does not know of the Knights of God, except for Brooke for some reason, which he could have been a training here as a knight or something else. We'll find out. 20 years ago, so we started 33 years ago after God Valley. Now we're moving forward 20 years. Ryuga Kingdom, Fishman Island. Ho, ho, ho. Brah, ha, 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 ha. And then we see King Harold slapping his knee saying, I haven't laughed this hard in a long time, Neptune. And King Neptune says, me too, pal Jamon. And I love the fact that they do that every fucking time with him. He continues, we both have our fair share of headaches, don't we? And Neptune continues, to be honest, I don't think your son is that bad deep down. Let's not forget what your youth was like. And this is what I was saying. Harold was a badass. People should know about giants because even in Fishman Island, fucking know of Harold's exploits. Harold grabs his head and he says, well, when you put it like that, as he laughs. And then Neptune goes, I'm just being brutally honest. Anyway, did I tell you a fortune teller predicted I'd have a daughter in 4 years, Jamon? When the time is right, why don't we betroth Loki to my future daughter? As he laughs. And Harold's sitting there, he's like, brah, ha, 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 ha. Now you're going too far. Cut it out. And then we have Neptune says, hey, don't write her off so fast. She's not going to be just any old mermaid. My daughter might well be born with the power no one else could ever hope to handle, Jamon. And he's looking kind of coy over at Harold, and Harold's just sitting there. And then we see Princess Shirahoshi's mom sitting there with her brother. And I can't remember this brother. It's the big one. It's the bulky one. She goes, well, now that does sound like the perfect match. Let's have a toast, says Harold. Here's to the future of my mischievous troublemaker and your little mosa mosa. And then Neptune says, don't call her that. She won't be Shaggy. Now here's our mosa. We have a long distance transponder snail. If this is a transponder snail for King Neptune, it would make sense that he's Shaggy. It would make sense that Loki would call her Mosa because of the transponder snail, but also the nickname as well that Harold gave her. So this is who he's been talking to. It's not Moda. It's not Ida. It is Shirahoshi. Which there's trouble in Fishman Island if she could no longer talk to him. After Elbaf, shit's going down. We continue, it says, that same year, Owl Library on Elbaf. Harold goes, don't mention it. You're welcome to live freely here, Saul. And then Saul goes, thanks a bunch. And Harold goes, actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask. And Saul goes, what is it? Harold goes, if we get other learned folks on Elbaf to help, would you be willing to open a school here? As he has his arms wide, just looking at all that Elbaf could be. And then Saul says, a school, huh? That's a nice idea. As a giant that's not all barbaric and about learning and reading, it makes sense that this is where Saul set up roots, and we actually got to hear what King Harold wanted. King Harold is not as bad as everybody thought. He wants to do something for his people. Is he going about the right way? That's the question. But inherently bad, fucking over Elbaf? No. 15 years now, a major incident occurred at the Holy Land of Mary Geoise. Now, just keep this in mind. Okay, I lied. Let's go back. So I had to think about the timeline. When we see Garling here after Harold receives his tattoo, it's not Shanks. This is Shamrock with short hair. So at this point in time, this is the time, Roger dies. Shanks is doing whatever on his own. He's not taking over like Buggy thought he would. This is Shamrock in this picture. Then we move 20 years and they're talking about Shirahoshi being born. Then we move, the same year they try to open up the school or build a school. And then 5 years later, Shirahoshi's been born and Fisher Tiger is caught. And now there's a major incident occurring at the Holy Land of Mary Geoise. So between Harold arriving and these 15 years, so 15 years it took. Shank had 15 years off before he went back to the Holy Land. Is what I'm trying to say. So I want to know what happened in that 15-year period for red hair Shanks. So it says, my slaves are running away, a Celestial yells. The cells are broken. And this was, hurry, or do you want to be their pet forever? Tiger yells. And he's, as he runs and runs, then we see somebody flash step in the middle of the street. There's a silhouette. He says, damn it, it's the God's Knight. And Tiger's running, preparing to fight. As you see a figure that looks like Shamrocks, the younger Shamrocks, hold up a sword. And in an instant they clash. You see Fisher Tiger punch with his left hand, grabbing the band-aid, and blood is flying off the silhouette's head, but also the chains that were just around his neck have been cut. And the figure says, listen, the armory will be left unlocked for you. I'll tell you the location. Then we see, wow, gunpowder, everything's blowing up. People are getting blown back, celestial dragons, military. And then we hear, hurry, big sis, Sandra Sonia. And we know that this is Boa Hancock. And then it says, there's someone out there, someone fighting to free us from this hell, as they cry, knowing that they are getting ready to escape from the Holy Land. And then we hear, hurry, Kola, you have to run. Cola, you have to run too. And remember, she gets picked up by Fisher Tiger on the Fishman Pirates, gets abused by Arlong. And it says, the narrator says, this attack on the Holy Land was carried out by Fisher Tiger. In the wake of this incident, he would go on to become captain of the Sun Pirates. And you see Fisher Tiger standing with the Sun Pirate flag behind him, and Boa Hancock and her sisters, as well as the rest of the slaves, running away from the burning down fire in Mary Geoise. And this makes so much sense that after everything that we found out, the Fisher Tiger was able to break them out, because no one could do it. If you have the Knights of God there's no way someone's breaking out of here. But with the help of Shanks, this has happened. And Fisher Tiger was traumatizing the motherfucker up here. I really want, if we're thinking Yu Yu Hakusho, the Black Club, and that video that Hiei and Kurama wanted and Senshui had, I want to see the atrocities from Mary Geoise so I can hate these motherfuckers even more, because they some bitches, bro. Knowing that they raped and had babies and doing all this other bullshit, fuck them. There's some bullshit. We continue. We see Harold talking to St. Summers. It sounds like it was pretty rough. And then St. Summers says, they say someone with the government must have left the armory open for them. Now it's up to us to find the culprit. And I can't wait to execute them, he says. And then we see Saint Figurlin Garland with his hand on one of his son's back, because the other one's standing right across from him. And he's introducing him to Harold. And he says, there's someone I want to introduce you to, Harold. And Harold goes, huh? His name is Shanks. He's Shamrock's younger brother. They were separated a long time ago due to circumstances. He ain't telling about God Valley, because if Harold found out about God Valley and this shit, fuck him. Yeah, Garland continues. He's suffered many hardships in the surface world. If he were to form a deep sea contract, I believe he'd make a great asset on par with Shanks. So after all this time, the way that he was raised with Goldie Roger, being a pirate on the sea and whatever else he had to go through, he is on fucking par with God Knight Shamrock, who's his older brother. Harold goes, for the time being, however, Garland continues, for the time being, however, he's been given the rank of God Steel just like you. And then Harold says, I know I said the same thing when I first met Shamrock too, but I can't shake the feeling that I've met you before. And then Shanks, this is why Shanks is my boy. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about. You're just some giant commoner from the surface. Don't act so familiar with me. Like a true celestial asshole. Like the top tier celestial asshole. He goes, I was blessed from birth with Figurlin blood in my veins. Have no doubt I'm going to become a knight of God before you. And the hero goes, guess I mistook you for someone else. And then he closes his eye and turns away. Shanks just helped Fisher Tiger, because we know Fisher Tiger punched at someone who had a band-aid on his head already. So my theory was Fisher Tiger caused that cut after looking back at it. But when you see that he has a band-aid wrap in his hand from when he punches Shanks at some point in time got into a battle with Blackbeard and was transported here to Mary Geoise, and then shortly after that the Fisher Tiger incident happened. He didn't get the incident from Fisher Tiger, he got it from Blackbeard, but that lets us know, and the silhouette of the hair, that it's Shanks. Shanks is talking to Shamrock as they're walking, and the text box says, God Steel Devotee, Figureland Family, Saint Shanks. And he goes, come on, Shamrock, I wish to deepen my knowledge of the Holy Land, and I shall apprehend that traitor, to claim the credit I deserve. Are there any leads? Shamrock goes, it can wait till your wounds are fully healed, Shanks. And then Shanks goes, you cannot fathom the anguish of having the last 24 years of your life wasted. No wonder the rest of the world seemed so alien to me. And as we are reading this, his brother Shamrock's Knight of God, Figureland Family, Saint Shamrock. And then just looking utterly pissed off and disgusted, we see Shanks. He says, I hated everything down there. And then Harold turns around and looks, and he's just wondering to himself, like, why is this motherfucker so angry, and what happened to him on the surface world? I think that he knows that Shanks is bullshitting to try to get one up over him and get more intel, because he just helped Fisher Tiger and he's asking Shamrock to give him information already so he can start moving on his own around Mary Geoise. Then it says that same year, this is 15 years later, the fishing village on Elbaf. And then we hear, it's no good, my medical knowledge is too limited. Someone else says, let's call Harold and see if he can get us in touch with more skilled doctors. And I gotta think that that's Gerd and Goldberg, because remember, the new giant pirates have a doctor, and if Gerd can't do it, they do need to find someone more skilled. He's got a lot on his plate now, and that is coming from Ida. And then we hear, what's the point of fostering a network with the world government if we don't use it? And this comes from this giant who I thought was Chief Gerald, but he's got some freakish looks. He's like kind of squatty and shit. But Ida goes, I can recover on my own. Just frail, fragile, weak. And then we see Moda over the bed. She goes, Motto, or that's what I said. Why did I say Moto? Motto, keep the tavern open. Who we see welcoming pirates and ships even till this day. I think Ida might have died. I think Ida's gone. Then that squatty Viking pirate giant says, you keep saying that, but you're getting weaker by the day. You have to get better. Harold will be heartbroken if you don't, And Motto says, no way, how can I when you're this sick? You got to take over the bar. She said, how can I when you're this sick, Ida? And you have to take over the bar. Ida's dream is to welcome people to Elbaf, to show them a different way of life that the giants have than what they've known. This one giant continues, says, when Harold's home, he's always goes straight to the elders and begs them to allow you to legally marry. What the fuck? If I gave up my soul to the world government and I was building bridges, motherfucker, like with the government, people had a different opinion of giants for a time period, and now I'm atoning. Fuck that. I ain't begging nobody to marry nobody. I would have just married Ida. That's fucked up. Harold's a fool to his own submissiveness, bro. Ida goes, that fool, he knows I'm happy with my tavern. I enjoy befriending sailors from all over the world. And she's just weak, anemic as fuck. And she says, it may not be much, but I feel like I'm helping Harold by doing that. Bullshit. Fuck them elders. And then we hear, hey, foreign hag. And then Motto says, what? And then Loki, sitting on top of a dead bull, says, he's just sitting there. And then Motto comes out and says, Loki. Loki goes, cook up this meat for me, old hag, will you? The tavern's my main hangout spot. I want her to reopen it. Then the squatty giant says, good grief, that troublemaker has grown out of hand. I am glad you've been able to keep him in line. And we see Hydruden and the new giant pirates, even though they're young, he's an adult, without his beard, shipping out from Elbaf, trying to find a cure for his mom. And then it says, even with Hydruden and his friends away looking for a doctor, your boys really love you. And that's one thing that we've seen. Hydruden was getting into fights with everybody because he loved Ida, and then Loki stands up for Ida all the time. They have conversations. He's the only person he will talk to and open up. Ida sits there and she says, everyone's blowing this out of proportion. I'll be fine. But it does make me smile. And now that Loki has found out that Ida's sick, he is going everywhere. And it says Elbaf Alcohol Village, hometown of Loki's birth mother, Estrid. And he goes, huh? What did you say? Loki says. And this old ass giant, smaller than Loki, goes, we were talking about how utterly unbearable it'd be to let that foreign bitch worm her way into the royal family. You're with us, right, Loki? We're Estrid's relatives. She was Harold's true wife. We cannot let anyone have our claim to our inheritance. That's why I slipped her a dose of poison. This stuff is fatal. Her days are numbered. And Loki just kind of leaning back in disbelief. And we see back in Ida's room, Motto, we can't hold off on ringing Harold anymore. And then Motto says, oh, on it. So she's going to call Harold now because Ida's taking a turn for the worse. Ida's laying there saying, we may not be related by blood, but I see him the same way I do Hydruden. Loki is still my cute little son. And then Loki has beat the shit out of the guy. The village is on fire. He says, Loki, hey. And he says, Ida isn't really going to die, right? Grabs this motherfucker by the throat. I still remember my birth mother. She hated me. She had thrown me into the realm of the dead. Who gives a shit about inheritance? Your whole family is nothing but trash. Now answer. Ida won't actually die, right? And we see, and I remember this moment in the chapter, is smiling, and she says, I bet you must get pretty lonely, right, Loki? Wouldn't it be better to stay with us? When she invited him to stay with them, he's like, she's the only mother I've ever known. Veins popping out of his face. Still bandaged eyes from the lies that he was told by his mama when she tried to kill him because she didn't like his eyes. Ida has accepted him. This was the TBC unofficial transcript. This was badass, dude. This, I can't wait to see what is said tomorrow, because tomorrow's Sunday, so 10 a.m. Central Standard Time is when this drops. And then I want to see what changes are made, because the context is very, very unique, very specific, and it does determine how this is read. But also the native Japanese speaker that I'm watching is making so many connections right now. What Ida says, what Loki says, what else happens with Harold in the Holy Land and Shanks. I feel something even bigger coming. I am excited about this. It's been a great read. What did you guys think? What are your predictions for next chapters? What do you think will be changed from this to tomorrow's version as far as the translations to make even more sense? I started off reading one version of the TCB, which I had never read. That was shit. It didn't make sense to me. It was like jumping around, missing phrases. This was more cohesive. Is this the cohesive story that Oda is telling? What is written versus what is drawn is amazing. Looks fucking badass. So I'm excited and ready to see. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for all the, kind words, condolences, everything. I appreciate it. What else? What is this playing over here? Hopefully we don't get hit with copyright shit. We might, I don't know. But thank you guys so much. Remember, music for the show and the stream comes from Rifty Beats most of the time. Sometimes it's just old video game music. And if it is, go ahead and guess. Let me know what the music is. If you guess correctly, you want a gift straight from me. I appreciate everything you guys do here. Also, next Sunday, not only do you have the One Piece live read, as long as there's no break. I don't think there's a break. But also my podcast, The Pod OKC, we will be doing an anime episode and kind of doing anime of the year as well. So make sure to tune in for that. Follow The Pod OKC everywhere and Edge2 Gaming everywhere to keep up with everything. Turn on notifications, subscribe, and join the community. Come talk to me as I game. Give me something to talk about. Last time we had a lot of theories. A lot of people were asking for specific things for the One Piece game, for The Last of Us Part 2. I have to go back through Dispatch, so come join me for that journey. I'm Elijah 5000. Thank you so much. This has been the TCB scans for One Piece 1167 Ida Sun. Let me know what your theories and predictions are, and follow me everywhere on social media. I like to have people to talk anime and manga with. So thank you guys so much. Peace out. Have a great evening.